go first if that's okay. Okay, so I've applied for funding like for quite a while. I'm currently based in London, but my project is in a way designed so I can always go once a month to Durham, have my supervision meeting, whatever I need to do. If there's like some mandatory meetings or seminars, I basically travel from London to Durham. Um, would I recommend doing a PhD? It really depends on your faculty or what the research project is. Personally, my project focuses on film studies, looking at expressionism in Hindi cinema, which is very niche itself. Um, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't get funding, I'll be honest. I just feel like the German study departments are getting smaller in a lot of universities. And in general, there aren't that many, I guess, working or in sort of in that way where I can't necessarily go unless I want to like stay within academia or focus on something completely different. So there isn't something in between with my subject. Um, but I know some other people who, like their field is completely different. So for them, there's more opportunities. So again, it really depends what your subject is about, what your research focuses on, and also like this might be a little bit early on to think on, but how your methodology is. Um, so the methodology part, whether it's collective or how you if you involve, for instance, case studies, so that kind of helps you to gain like more skills for further, work experiences and that sort of stuff. Um, Having said that, so when I came into my PhD, I was told multiple times, make sure that you enjoy it and you take it as an experience where where you want to widen your knowledge and kind of just learn more about the topic that you want to do. Again, I feel like my supervisors were very from the first day on, very forward with, by the way, academia is getting difficult. So if you want to stay in academia, do research and teaching, um, you need to be in that mindset that not everything will follow your plan. In terms of like my journey, I would say it started off very all over the place. So I did a master's, I finished my bachelor's, I did my master's, and yeah, like I said, I applied. This was my, I want to say like third or fourth application for funding, not for Durham, but in general. And it's very time consuming, but I highly, highly recommend doing the funding because it really helps you. 3 years self-funding for art subject. So it wasn't for me. Um, but yeah, I highly recommend it. When the NE Pro funding was actually announced that I was one of them, I was thrilled. I was literally like kind of crying because I was like, oh my God, yes. After like the fourth time when you're applying, it's difficult. So if you can, highly recommend applying for the funding. Um, if you don't get the funding, I was told it's not because your project is boring or not interesting, but it's genuinely because there's a lot of competition. Alone in London, I think there's over 600 applications, or maybe more. So it's really crazy. If you are considering a funding, make sure you plan things in advance. It does take a long time for creating your research proposal. So yeah, I would always say reach out to different lecturers who focuses or professors who focuses in that area that you're interested in. Have a conversation with them, kind of like get to know them as well a little bit as well, because you will be working with that person in that sense for like 3, 4 years. My supervisors are very friendly. They're also very, they have everyone has their own work going on at the same time. So they're not going to be focusing on your work only. So it's for you to take initiatives. You need to be very organized as well. But these things shouldn't scare you off because I feel like if you want to do a PhD, you need to have a very sharp foreground that okay, I want to do the PhD. Let's see how it works out. If it works out, great. If not, then let's see. But yeah, it's fun, but it's also very emotional. So far, I'm in my second year, so it's been of a bit of an emotional roller coaster. I've passed my 6 months review, and I'm coming to my 1 year review soon. So yeah, hopefully it works out. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, like I said, so my focus area is very niche, but I'm within like the arts department, so languages and arts. So if anyone is doing anything about, within that region, happy to just feel free to contact me and I'm happy to share some ideas, tips, and whatsoever. And yeah, that's a bit about me. If you have any questions, let me know.
So someone asked in the chat, how many contact hours do you have for yourself?
Okay, so I think I'm doing a full time. So my PhD, again, like it really depends on your project. So the way I kind of organized it is that every 4 weeks I'm meeting my supervisors. And usually the meeting is about 2 hours, I want to say. We're going through like work, my written work, or like, the things that I've worked on, that sort of stuff. But I know, for instance, with some other PhD students, especially in first years, their supervisors like to meet them more frequently. So it would be after every 2 weeks, meeting up, 1 hour or 2 hours, like a meeting. But it's really how you design it and how your supervisors work with you. Yeah, so it really depends on your project, how far you are, and if you need further help. So that sort of stuff kind of can be discussed um, once once you have integrated in the PhD program. Yeah.
So much. Um, this is asking about the claiming the costs back if you travel.
Oh, okay. Because I do a 1 day trip, it is very expensive. Bear in mind, like sometimes my supervisors would come back to me like a week or 2 weeks before, to schedule the next meeting. So it can be, I really don't want to say the number because it hurts, it really hurts, but it's like between 100 to 180, but that's only like because I'm traveling on the same day back and forth. And it's also booked a very short time. Um, but I know if you book in advance, at least like 3 weeks or a month in advance, you can get the tickets for like £60 or even £80, like cheaper than that. Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you so much.
I see another question about the Zoom meeting. Yeah, so I was advised, and that's again a preference on your supervisors, but usually on the first year, they do like to see you more often. So Zoom is not ideal, especially for first year. The second year, it can vary again, like where you are in your project, whether a constant meeting needs to be placed. So it can work, but it depends on your supervisor. And again, like first year, really, I traveled more often in first year. So first year was more like face to face, getting to know your supervisors, and just to build that connection because you'll be working with them for like 3 years. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Maria, who would like to share a little more?
Okay, I'll start with sharing my screen.
Okay.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
I've prepared a little presentation here. My name is Maureen Veronica Nachans, a PhD student and a research assistant on the Pro Northeast project here at Teesside University. It's nice to meet you all. A little background about my education. As you see this tidy little picture here of me putting on a jumper, it's me in my senior high. And the other one with a mic, it's me in my undergraduate gown, and the other one is for my master's gown. So I have a bachelor's degree in procurement and logistics management, which I attained from International University of East Africa. Then I have a postgraduate diploma in public health, a master's degree in international management here, attained all here at Teesside University, and currently in my second year of my PhD. I'll share a little background about my research study. Currently, the topic for my primary study is co-developing an intersectionally appropriate framework for minority ethnic home students on postgraduate research in UK higher education institutions. And I've divided my research into phases. The first phase, a literature review, which shows all the sections in it, the theoretical underpinnings, policy analysis, narrative review, and the systematic review, which by the way turned out to be an empty review. Then in phase two, it will be primary qualitative study, which I'll interview students, home students. Then phase three will be a qualitative study whereby I'll hold focus groups for the staff, and I've attained ETHCA approval for both the phases. And the fourth phase will be co-developing an intersectional appropriate framework. And by the way, my project is funded by the Pro Northeast. I was lucky to acquire the scholarship. Why I chose to go for further studies? As you can see, that is me in a cultural dress. That picture was taken around here at Teesside. It was independence celebration for my country, Uganda. I come from that tiny country in Africa. I went for further studies because as I was growing up, I was always reminded and encouraged that education is the pathway to success. And that kept ringing a bell in my head, and it pushed me to go further. Also challenging the tradition roles. In my country where I grew up from, women are well known for marriage, bearing children, uh, holding up the household and all the chores, whereas men are known for going for studies and all that. So I went for these further studies in order to challenge that, to show the world, to show people from that small country of mine that even us women can do that. Then also for personal fulfillment, this is something I've always dreamed of ever since I was a little girl. I actually wanted to be a doctor, but I wasn't doing well with the sciences. So me doing this PhD and attaining that is a personal fulfillment to me. Then the role model and community contribution. There are many young girls who would also wish to be one day, to be something one day. So if us Black women in different communities come up and attain PhD studies, we become role models to those children in different parts of the world. Then empowerment and independence. As you acquire these studies, you become independent, you become strong, you have an independent mind whereby you can do different things by yourself. And it's nice, it's fulfilling. Why should everybody go for further studies? When you go for further studies and start doing the research degrees, you deepen your knowledge and expertise. There is a lot of things you acquire along the way. Your knowledge about different things depends because this PhD, the PhD studies and all the research requires a lot of reading. And you don't only read around your field, you go on reading around different things. Then for career advancement, I wanted to build my career in academia, and the only way this can be done is through acquiring further studies. Then to contribute to knowledge, So with this research I'm doing, as I said, I aim to co-develop an intersectional appropriate framework for the minority ethnic home students here in the UK. Then also the PGR studies help us to develop critical thinking. I have a few tips for the PhD application process, and I'll relate these to myself. So when you're going to do this PhD, after thinking about it and deciding that you're going to do this, I think it's important to suggest a topic that you're so interested in, something that you love, something that intrigues you. Because as you do this PhD, things get tough along the way. And if you're doing something that you don't like or you don't have interest in, you might find yourself giving up. Uh, then after you've done the application processes, I suggest that you find someone else to proofread for you. Because as we all know, two heads are always better than one. Then personally, I do everything on time. So it's better to plan and do things systematically and always meet the deadlines. This avoids stress. Then prepare and present before someone else. It can be your fellow student, can be your colleague or family. This helps with building confidence, and this other person you're presenting to can help you figure out a few things. Then always never give up. I know in most cases you can apply and apply, but don't receive a positive outcome. This only means that it's not yet your chance. Your chance will come. And trust me, it will always be there somewhere waiting for you. The only thing you have to do is to continue and search and search. Don't, never give up, just breathe. Yes, disappointments happen, but it's always not the end. So keep fighting. And for our PhD students or those students who are looking at applying for masters in research, this is a new book that has just come out, and I thought maybe I should share with you. It's about the Black PhD experience, uh, stories, strength and courage, and wisdom in UK academia. I thought this might be important to everybody. That's it. Thank you all for listening. Best wishes to all.
Thank you so much, Maureen.
You're welcome.
This is a question about the international, about the
Sorry?
There's a question in the chat about international student funding. But I can answer that Toronto scholarships were meant for those who fulfill the home UK-based things.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other question? Thank you.
Yeah, if there are more, you will be around a little more, so that
okay.
will be perfect.
Cool. Shall I go next then?
Yes.
Last but not least. So yeah, hi everyone, I'm Maria. I'm also currently funded by the Pro Northeast studentship, full-time student, second year, remote. So I'm in London. I don't travel up as often as Melissa to Durham, but I do travel regularly. And I have a lot of my supervision online. So my PhD is quite autonomous. You have to be quite disciplined in what, like, if you really want to do it. So my PhD is in child to parent abuse, and I already had frontline experience of working in the sector. And I guess during lockdown, I really reflected on like what I wanted to do, like where was my career going, and what did I want to achieve. And I realized that like I enjoyed the work I did, but I really wanted to spend more time doing the research, like the behind the scenes stuff. So that's when I started to reach out to I guess people that were in different universities, experts in the field, already had PhDs or publications, said, hey, look, I was kind of like cold calling people and just reaching out and seeing who would respond. And basically, what was really nice was people were responding to me, and they were supporting me, So I started off with something probably like 8,000 word proposal, like everything I knew about child to parent abuse and my experience in violence against women and girls. I kind of wrote it all in one essay and why I was the best person to do this kind of research, etc. And I just started sending it out to people, and people started to say, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. I'll help you kind of refine this. Started to look for different types of funding. And I think that's where I started to be led to where I wanted to study, if that makes sense. So I found out so there was different ones that were like based for like London universities, and then there was the ones that I saw for like Durham, like 9DTP. And that's the initial funding that I did apply for. But before I even got to the funding stage, like I said, I had to reach out to Durham University. So I actually just reached out to Carleen Furman. I saw her on X, formerly known as Twitter. And I just reached out to her and I said, hey, would you be willing to meet up with me? Like, I'm really interested in doing a PhD. She said, yeah. And she gave me some of her time. She kind of told me what I needed to do. I needed to pull it back down to 2,000 words, and she kind of guided me and said, like, once you've done that, you send it into our sociology department. They send it around. She was talking to me about like time frames. So you do need to be prepared. So if you want to start, like, say, October next year, you need to be writing now and talking to people now and getting their support, because part of your application process is you need their support, especially if you're going to apply for funding. So I already had, so I sent it off to the sociology department. Fortunately for me, I got some responses. So Nikki Rutter, Alison Joe, they responded, so they would like to be my supervisors, and I knew who they were, so I was just like, yes, thank you, I'll take that. And they actually just guided me. So I was also prepared to self-fund, because this is something I've always had as an aspiration since I was a child, but really never took it forward because I had children along the way. So I did my first degree, had a kid, and by the time I did my master's, all of them were grown up, like teenagers. And then I just kind of thought, this is my time as well. Like I said, after reflection during lockdown, where do I want to be? And I guess in terms of like future, for me, it's more about it's given me opportunities now to be writing, doing research in different arenas, to have publications, to be thinking about theory into practice, thinking about how we can support other students like down this pathway as well. And even things, examples like Jason Arde, he wrote this bid, with other people, but there's so much that you can do, like once you're in this arena. And I've been given opportunities already, like I said, I'm in my second year, I'll be doing a lecture next year as well. Yeah, I don't know really what else to say. I think Melissa and Marina said it perfectly as well, you really got to be passionate about what you want to do, because it is emotional roller coaster. I've been told if you don't feel insane, it's not right, so you're meant to go on this emotional journey, if that makes sense, but I am really, really enjoying it, and I think if you've got the right fit for supervisors and the right support, so I've got my family supports me, I've got mentors, part of the pro mentoring strand as well, so even though I'm remote, there's ways that I kind of still keep in, I still feel part of the university. Yeah. Cool. Any questions?
Yes. What was the biggest challenge doing a PhD coming from a career and a family?
Oh, what was the biggest challenge? I'll be really, really honest with you. Financial responsibility, you know, once you have a family and you know, you have to keep the roof over people's heads, etc. And I know that was one of my, I guess, one of the reasons why I didn't do it earlier, if that makes sense, you know. But I always knew that it was going to happen. But being funded by Pro Northeast and doing my PhD in this way allows me to research a subject that I'm really, really passionate about. So I will overcome any barriers, if that makes sense. So it's true, you really have to have that fire in your belly to want to do this. And like I said, my kids have seen me throughout academia and work all my life. So it's nothing new to them, and they're just kind of like championing me on. And so it's great, to be honest. And yeah. You can tell you the big names. When I was looking for, yeah, like I said, just the only thing, like when you're looking for a PhD, just don't, I guess there was a time when I was going to go for ones that were pre-funded. So the question was already directed to me, like the research. And yes, it interested me, but not enough to spend 3 years of my time doing it, if that makes sense. So this really like was the golden opportunity for me to pose my own question and bring something novel. So I was looking for, so I guess what you need to be looking at when you're writing your proposals as well is what is the gap that you're filling? What is something new that you're going to be bringing to the table?
Thank you so much for sharing.